Troll Training. This is the Outside Gate with Steve Hall on the L4 Media Network, where we talk US moto and anywhere the conversation goes. Joining us today, we have John Wessling from Troll Training. How are you?
Hey man, yeah, I'm happy this worked out. We've been trying for a while, so this is pretty cool, and I'm doing well. It's summer here, so it's real nice, and it's good to be in the swing of things with the moto crew.
Yeah, man, we were just talking before the show about how when John first jumped on, I had a big jacket on and I'm sitting here all rugged up because it's morning here and in the middle of winter and the studio gets no heat and that sort of thing. And I had a little heater blasting in here for a few minutes, and he's telling me about how it's how damn hot it is there at the moment. So we've just been talking about the weather.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the conversion here really quick to Celsius. Yeah, it's like 32 to 35 Celsius here. So it's like, it's hot, but we're also, do the other conversion. We're also 6,500 feet to meters. I'm like 2,000 meters up right now. So the sun is extra potent.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. That's one I never think of, man. And because Australia doesn't have a lot of elevation, man. Like like, geez, our I don't know how our mountain ranges compare to yours, but they're like way smaller, man. Like our big mountains are tiny compared to what you guys have. So, and we don't have any cities at elevation. Like none of the cities are at elevation. The mountain range sort of runs. So there's really only one main mountain range in Australia, and it sort of runs from, I guess an easy way to describe it is it runs from basically the west, so the inland side of like Brisbane, down past the inland side of like Sydney, and then comes and curls around across the top of Melbourne. So it sort of runs down the eastern seaboard there, yeah. But all those cities are on the coast.
It's like big mountains, but it's like starting at sea level. So you know what I mean? You never get, like where I'm at, it's like 2,000 meters up. So then to go like another, 1,000 meters up isn't that hard just because of the mountains. So like once you get up past that, you can't really breathe, but it's pretty,
Not one I've ever experienced. Yeah, like having to tune a bike for elevation or anything like that. Like, like only if you're on the only time you'd ever experience any sort of elevation changes in a bike is if you're on a trail ride in some of the mountain ranges, like because they're all like state parks and that sort of thing. You're not allowed to run races there, so there's never any even races at elevation. Just trail riding. It doesn't matter if your bike pops a bit up there. You're only on a trail ride. So it's an interesting thing, man. I was blown away just seeing some of the mountains when I visited the US. Yeah, just like wow, that's impressive stuff. And it's also what's really different, man, is all the mountains here are in forests. So there's always a gradual. You don't sort of stand back and look at them.
Mm-hmm.
They just sort of gradually come, because you're gradually going up and it's all very heavily treed. So you don't really realize you're getting up high until you get to maybe a lookout. Whereas in California there, man, like you're just looking across the desert and then the next minute this mountain's just like whoosh, up it goes. It's really, really impressive to see mountains that aren't covered in trees. It's a really really odd thing for me to see. Yeah, and really, really cool.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, the desert's kind of like I bounce between California and Utah, and Utah is like super desert. There are like beautiful tree covered mountains, but a lot of it's bare. And coming from the Midwest, I'm from Minneapolis, and it's all kind of like where you are. It's all trees, and then you get out here, and at first I'm like, dude, this is ugly. Like it's just so bare and just bushes, and it's nothing crazy. And then now I really enjoy the desert, so I've kind of flipped my perspective on it. But I totally know what you mean. It's like the Bear Mountains, and like you said, the cities and everything, like all the Euros that are training for endurance events, not all of them, but a lot of them, when they do altitude camps, they come to the US just because it's a developed city at 2,000 meters or whatever. And you can go grocery shopping and your life's a lot easier than say, somewhere in Europe where you got to, train up to a certain point. So it's definitely, it's definitely unique. I guess I didn't realize till I got really into cycling, like how awesome the mountains are in the US compared to a lot of places in the world. So it's pretty cool. And obviously it's a luxury to live in the mountains and the elevation and everything.
Yeah, even some of our Aussie football teams. I don't know if you even know what Australian rules football is, but it's our sort of biggest football code here. It's a sport unique to Australia, but they some of the top teams, some of the teams that can afford it, I guess, have actually sent the guys to Utah in the off season to do camps. Yeah, so to do altitude camps, because our football's very much it's way too hard to explain, but it's very much a lot more aerobic fitness than your football. A lot less strength, a lot more aerobic fitness. Like all these guys, like they run the whole game.
Damn.
And that sort of thing. So yeah. It's sort of they probably nearly run as much as a soccer player, but they also have like full contact as well. Yeah. So they're strong, big, strong fellas, a lot of them. But yeah, they also got to have a real good engine, So that's something that some of the teams have done in recent times. It seems to be the place to go to get that altitude training. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's super cool.
Yeah. Cool, man. Hey, I thought, we might just get into a little bit about just a little bit of a brief on just what you've been up to, just the latest rounds and working with Jason and how all that's going, and just sort of any news or any sort of reports on that sort of stuff.
Yeah, no, everything's going well. I've been going to all the races this year with Jason and helping him out, obviously, during the week with training. In the summer, he's based in Charlotte, North Carolina. Not California. So I've been bouncing between Utah and North Carolina during the weeks and then go meet him at the races. But yeah, everything's going well. I feel like he's riding really well this year. Obviously the class is really fast. Jet and Chase definitely have upped the game in outdoors. It's not very easy to get on the podium. Let's put it that way. So
yeah, that's for
I
sure,
think Jason's holding his own. And, I'm pretty if you really take a step back and look at just the history of motocross and how many 30-plus-year-olds are competitive, I think Jason's doing a really good job in his career. The guys he's racing in the top 5 are, 7 to 10 years younger than him. So I think he's doing really well, and he keeps improving, which is really impressive to me. And it has nothing to do with me. He's just like the way he processes how he rides and his efficiency and everything is really incredible this year. Just seeing it firsthand day in and day out. I really think the longevity of his career, he could go another couple of years just based on kind of where his mind's at and how he processes, the training and the riding and everything like that. So for me, not obviously I work for him, so it's easy for me to, talk highly of him, but I am really impressed at 31 that he still is finding speed and still finding things to work on, and he's not stuck in his ways at all. So it makes my job really fun and easy in that aspect, because you're not, having to force somebody to do anything. And we're a good fit. I enjoy it. And yeah, he's pretty gnarly. So it's even in outdoors this year, like I knew he'd be good, but he's really impressed me even. I wasn't sure where he'd stack up and all that. And I think, Brock Tickle and the Cowie boys have the bike working really well. And, Jason's really found his stride with the setup right now. So I think he's still got some left in the tank. So these next couple of rounds will be crucial.
Yeah. Is there a particular round that you guys are sort of looking forward to that might be, you penciling one in for a podium or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know. He said he there's like a couple rounds, like everybody hates Paula, like even the good guys hate Paula that win it.
Mm.
And I felt like he rode okay there. And then his second moto in Denver at Lakewood, I thought that was the best he's ridden all year. Like I just felt like he rode really well. He was consistent. He didn't have the raw speed to win it, but his lap times were very close for 30 plus 2. So I was super stoked with that moto. And he says he always sucks at Lakewood. So I don't really know what to expect because like High Point, I think this is the first time ever he hasn't podiumed at High Point overall. And he still rode well, but he just he just didn't have like a perfect day by any means. So I guess we'll see, because history says that High Point should have been a podium and Lakewood should have been a bad second moto. So I think, like I said, just with how the racing's going and the competition and everything, I think everything kind of gets flipped on its head as far as just the history of racers and where they're at and how good they are in certain tracks and everything, just because everybody is so close and everybody is so good right now. It's just kind of whoever has the day. And it could be bike setup a little. It could be how they feel. It could be starts, who knows? But once somebody has a day, it's easy to see like Justin Cooper, Plessinger, Jason, kind of that whole group, to get on the podium is obviously not far-fetched at all. So any of those guys, if they have their day, they'll have it. And I think Jason's is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be good to see, like I always want the old blokes to get it done, like even as a proud Aussie, and it's cool that the Aussie guys are doing great and all that sort of thing. But yeah, I always love when the old blokes get up there. It always a cool thing to me. Any of that, because there's a legendary bunch of them around that 31-year-old now, and any of those guys get another podium or another win or anything like that, I just reckon it's super cool. So yeah, that's good, man. Good. It sounds like you guys are. Sounds like it's the working relationship and the situation, everything's pretty happy, man. It sounds happy, yeah.
Yeah, Jason, he's super laid back, so it's pretty hard not to get along with him, to be honest. He's just pretty chill. Exactly what you think he is what he is. He's pretty laid back, pretty relaxed. Like, I was listening to this podcast. There's a big gravel bicycle race called Unbound in the US, 200-mile race. And this guy by the name of Lachlan Morton won it. And he's kind of a free spirit, doesn't really follow the rules, like as far as how to be good at cycling, any of that, kind of does it on his own terms. And he was talking about how he trains really hard, he works hard, but then once he's off the bicycle, like that's done. Like that part of his life is done. Like he has a different life when he gets home. He's not like counting, how many grams of protein he's eating after each ride. And obviously as a trainer, I'm like, well, you probably should. but the reality is like certain people function that way. And I was listening to the podcast and I'm like, oh, Lachlan's just like Jason of cycling. Like Jason, when he gets done riding, he doesn't really want to think about it or talk about it, or, it's not like he hates it or anything. It's just, he has that balance in life where he can turn it on and off when he needs to. And for me, it's really good because I came from, even to this day, I'm pretty strict on myself on training and eating. And, all the athletes I've worked with in the past are kind of the same breed. And Jason's kind of the one-off guy that can really have a good life balance. And honestly, the better life balance he has, it seems his results are better. So you can't really argue it. Science will say differently, but the reality is if you're not happy, it's hard to perform. So from that aspect, it's pretty easy to, work with him. And, he still likes to train and ride and everything. So like I said, you're not pulling somebody out of bed to go train or anything.
Yeah. Do you think that, the guys that, and I think probably, Kenny's probably a bit like that too. There's a few guys that need a bit of their own time, bit of their own space once the training's done, and to do things differently and not be too robotic, I guess.
Yeah.
And do you think that sort of is there a flow on that because they're happy, then they're relaxed, they probably sleep better, they're probably more relaxed on, race day, they got more clarity. Do you think there's actually some physical benefits from that sort of thing, particularly probably the sleep,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just if you look at, like, to me, the three people that really stick out that are high level are Kenny, Jason, and Eli. I think those three have really good life balance, and they still have fun. They still do things outside of riding and training. And I think look at where they are in their careers. They're all in their 30s. They're all on any given day, they could be the best guy in the world. Um, and so I think, like, as far as a longevity aspect goes in a career, I think that's the only way to do it, really. Like the old school retire when you're 25, 26 mentality of moto. I don't think there was anything wrong with that. But those same guys that retired young, they had a very different mindset. They were not laid back after riding. They were,
Yeah.
and they were expected to win. And I understand that aspect, but you can kind of see the transformation in the sport of the Barcias, the Tomacs, the Andersons, the Kennys, where they're just happy to be racing. They still want to win, but they're not going to die on Tuesday to try to win on Saturday, where the young kids, they kind of let them do that, and let them have their days. So yeah, I think just the trajectory of the sport is, and I think this is in all sports, this isn't just moto, but I think people want to have a long career now, and it is awesome to win, and it is good to get championships and all of that. And I think that's obviously the main goal. But if you're not going to win championships every year, which obviously, there's only a handful of guys in the history of the world that, can win championships every single year, you might as well enjoy it. And so I think that's what they're finding is just the balance, having a family. I mean, how many guys now are in the top 5 with
Yeah.
kids that never, like in the 90s, that never existed in
Never.
the same world. So, yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, and for me, I feel like I really get I grew up, I was a moto head. I watched all the races and went to all the races that I could and everything growing up and raced myself. But to see kind of in real time the transition of how the sport's going, and having these older guys with more experience doing well later in their careers, like, it's really cool. And they're all kind of my age. I'm 33. So, I always looked at Tomac and Anderson and those guys when I was growing up as gods, because they were roughly my age. And so to see it in real time and see how they function on a day-to-day basis, it's pretty cool to see guys going into their 30s still capable of winning.
Yeah, it is, and I think it's probably in some ways they're good for the sport for younger people to see that because, I mean, in the old day, well, not, old days to me is different to old days to you, but like if you think about just back a bit, you think about grumpy RV on the podium, just RV just looking like he just won a title and he's just looking angry still, like
Yeah.
things like that. And just, and Ricky was much the same, where they just look, and it, for kids, like they'd be looking like, gee, that's awesome, but those guys don't look like they're having fun, So
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah.
there's only a like you said, only a very small amount of people that go in and start racking up titles, and
Yeah.
yeah,
And all those guys too that I talked about, like, they're so, like, the way people are riding now is very proper. There's a certain way you ride a dirt bike now, where the Carmichael days, the RV days, there wasn't really a way to ride. You just kind of went fast, and you could see it in RV style and RC style. And Dungey was a little more proper, I would say, but like the Barcias and the Tomacs and like those days are gone. Like, there's no more guys coming up in the field. Like, you could argue Deegan a little bit, but even so, like, their technique, and it's a good thing. I'm not knocking it by any means, but I guess what I'm getting at is, like, once those guys are gone, it's a lot of robotic riding by a lot of people. And it's like, it's fun to see, like, even on the side of the track in the middle of a national, when I hear like a big panic rev, or like, I know it's not Jet or Chase panic revving, it's one of those older guys behind them that's hanging it out a little differently than they would. So it's really cool to see them still be competitive without kind of conforming to the perfect technique. And especially the way they ride, it's so individual. It's pretty cool. I like I said, in their 30s and doing it their own way and with kids and everything, it's a cool deal, and I think it's really good for the sport.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting for you to say that. Yeah, because I love my I appreciate and am very impressed by the skill of Jet and Chase. But I love to watch Eli and Jason ride. Like, I love to watch Bam ride. Like, that's, Mookie. Like, that's, especially like my absolute favorite is like Beast Mode Eli days is my favorite thing to ever watch, maybe second to Prime Stew. But,
Yeah.
and then I'm a fan of Deegan. Like, Deeg's, some of the things he says, and sometimes I'm just like, oh no, dude, it's a bit cringy in that. But his riding style and the way he goes about it on the track, like, I'm a fan. That kid's a boss. Like, it's awesome, and that's probably why, man, because he is he's a bit of a he's got a bit of Eli, a bit of RV, a bit of just all out attack sort of thing to his riding. So yeah, it's probably long term. He might have to tidy up a bit when he gets up to challenge Jet, just because of 450s and that sort of thing, and like the efficiency of Jet is just amazing. Like, the efficiency, like he's not using as much energy up out there as others, is he? Yeah.
No, like, yeah, the new style, it's so efficient, and it's kind of crazy. Just even it's transferred over to downhill mountain biking. Like, if you look at um, Goldstone, God, I'm gonna butcher his name. I should know it, but Jackson Goldstone, I think. He rides a mountain bike very efficiently and doesn't look like he's going very fast. And you kind of see it, like all these kids coming up. That's how it is, and it's so different than like when you and I grew up. You just held it wide open in the air everywhere, and you just sounded fast. And now they're just going fast, and so yeah, it's definitely a different. But that's what I guess that's why it's so crazy to me is how different the older generation style is, but yet they're still right there. They're still competitive, and it's so good because it is fun to watch Chase and Jet and all these guys because they're so efficient and they're really good. Although I'll argue at Hangtown, Chase was not very efficient. He was just beast.
Yeah, that was beast. Yeah.
He was kind of hanging it out, like very uncharacteristic. And that was incredible to watch. But outside of that one-off type race, like, yeah, they kind of do everything perfectly. And I think it's good too for the younger kids coming up that maybe if they don't ride perfectly, like they can make their style efficient. And I think that's what Jason's really done this year is he's definitely worked on a few things to make to get modernized, so to speak, but he's really just making his style efficient. And I think that's the most important thing. You don't have to be perfect. You just need to be efficient at what you're doing. And like Deegan, like you said, if you just look at his last few laps in every moto in outdoors, like he's obviously fit and efficient, and he can do it probably for 40, 50 minutes at the same pace. So it's, that's kind of the direction in the future of the sport where you can kind of ride at 90%, which is still, the fastest in the world, but you don't have to take like the massive risk that RV and RC and Stu and those guys did take to go fast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all very interesting, man. Yeah. A good friend of mine, he used to sponsor a lot of riders that were riding like nationally here and state level here. And he has the local Honda shop. And he hadn't sponsored anyone. He hadn't been to any races for probably 4 or 5 years. And he just started sponsoring a young fella, and he went to a state round a couple of weeks ago. And so our state round, it's probably, I guess it's reasonably high level. It's the sort of rounds where the Lawrence brothers cut their teeth, I guess, And he said he couldn't believe how different all the kids are riding just in the last 4 or 5 years. He said it's just amazing. All these kids, like, he left and they were all sort of riding, they're all trying to be Eli, I guess, and they're all trying to be Jet now. It's all about Jet, and all these kids are just totally riding different and looking different on the bike, sitting different on the bike. Just the whole thing's changed in it. So there's a huge, a flow-on effect from, it's easy to, everyone gets to watch it all nowadays. When I was a kid, we were watching pictures in magazines. You had no idea about technique because you can't tell.
Yeah.
You can't tell from a still shot. But now all these kids, they just get on the bike and just straight away, they just got their arms and legs and their hips and everything's just perfect, because they've been watching hours and hours of it. So
yeah, no, I do think that's a big effect, like what you said, with being able, especially on social media and stuff, because kids are sponges. So when they see something 100 times, they'll figure out how to do it. And I do think it's making the sport safer. I think that's the biggest benefit of it all, is I think there's always going to be injuries, but I think it'll be a little bit less and hopefully less severe. But I think, if you can ride, instead of trying to ride at 110%, if you can ride at, 95% and be in control, naturally you're just going to make less mistakes and hopefully lead to less crashes. So, and that's like Alex and I with troll training, that's like the biggest thing we try to help with the amateur kids, is like, most of the time, this isn't always the case, but most of the time, if you just try a little bit less hard, you'll go faster. And if you try to just do all the little things right, you'll use less energy and all that stuff. So it's kind of, like you said, the last couple of years, and it is wild to see, the 65 kids at the Supercross, the amateur races, jumping triples on 65s and throwing whips, and like, it's pretty wild. And I think the Stasic generation that's coming, they're really going to blow our minds, because they've been able to, be on pump tracks on an e-bike at 4 years old, and they understand, how to cut the apex and how to, way before we could ever even figure that stuff out. So I think the Stasic generation coming up is really going to change the game, and a lot of these older guys will be happy they're out, because it's going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, it is, man, for sure. Cool. We might get into. I could talk about this stuff all show, but I want to hear about John Wessling's story, man. So my favorite question every show, man, is how did you first fall in love, like, with dirt bikes? Like, when did the bug bite you?
Yeah, I got a 50, a Polini 50, when I was probably like everybody else, like 5, 6, 7 years old. Started riding. I lived in Kansas at the time, and I mostly just rode for fun. Learned how to ride a 65 with, clutching gears and everything. I think in like 1999, I started riding right when the KX65 came out. Started riding that, and then I moved to Minnesota. Started racing at Millville as an amateur, and that's kind of when it all started. I've always been a weekend warrior when I was racing. I never did like weekday riding really or anything, because we always lived in the city. So it was just too much of a hassle to really make time during the week. But the bug bit me pretty much at Millville, I would say. I started racing there on 65s, and I fell in love. And, I did a lot of other sports growing up, so moto was never the priority, but it was in my head. It was the most fun thing, no matter what, whether I was playing hockey or whatever I was doing. Moto, once it was summertime, that was like the sauce. And my parents raced, my brother raced, so it's kind of a family affair. My parents still race to this day in their 60s. And so, I've kind of always been around moto, and I grew up around like really good guys: Jeremy, Alex Martin, Zach Williams, Jesse Wentland. Dungy was always at local races. So there's a pretty high level for kind of like a non-Florida or California state. It was a pretty high level of racing. And I never thought I would ever be in this position to be training guys, but I kind of always wanted to. And once I started cross-country skiing, I started cross-country skiing actually and running to be in shape for moto. And I happened to fall in love with that. And so it just kind of worked out when I got out of school and stuff to start training guys. But yeah, long story short, when I was young, I caught the bug, and I stopped racing before college, right before college, and I got to the A level, the local pro level, but I was nowhere. I wasn't about to make a living doing it. I was nowhere near the guys I train or anything. But yeah, I really loved it, and to this day, it was 15 years ago was the last time I raced, but I always think about just the enjoyment and how much fun I had riding and racing, and I think that's why I've stuck in the sport as long as I have, just because that burning passion's still there.
Do you still get a chance to ride much?
I do. I rode a little bit this fall for the first time in like 6 or 7 years, probably. When I was training Jeremy Martin in Florida, God, it was probably like 8 years ago, maybe. I would ride every once in a while. I always like to say this, like all the guys I train don't care, but anybody who has never ridden a factory bike, I've ridden a few of the best factory bikes, which is pretty fun to just, I'm going 100 seconds slower than them a lap, but it's pretty fun just to hop on and try it out on a corner track or whatever. So I would ride every once in a while, like once in a blue moon. But honestly, I mountain bike race so much that I kind of get my fix doing that. And that's kind of, where I'm at in life. Like unfortunately, I just don't want to work on a dirt bike.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
like
Yeah.
a mountain bike, I can go ride for 5 hours, lube the chain, and it's good to go the next day. Where a
Mm.
dirt bike, at this point in my life, is a lot of work. That's kind of why I've been interested in the Stasic, but or not the Stasic, sorry, the what's the
The Varg,
yeah,
the
the
Stark,
Stark,
yeah.
the Stark. So because that sounds like a lot less work. So I'd be interested in that. But yeah, I don't get to ride as much as I want to, or as much as I could probably, but I think I'm going to do the day in the dirt this fall with a friend, and yeah, just go putt around. It's when you work with the best guys in the world, you really you don't want them to see you riding.
They're like, he'll love to see you ride though. And I would think it was awesome if he was, if to see you out there. He'd be happy for you. Yeah, yeah. But you're right, man. Like sometimes, like where I live, there's no moto tracks, and there's not even any sort of really fun places to ride. I have to travel for that. But I have some pretty sort of just boring loops that I do, just sort of natural terrain tracks that I just pound laps on to keep fit.
Hmm.
And but so yeah, it's more of a fitness thing. But I mean, it's still awesome. But any time on two wheels is awesome. But then sometimes I'll be just like, oh, I'll just go for a ride on the pushy, like pushy on the road bike, as you guys would say. We call
Yeah,
a push bike, but I'll go for a ride on the pushy because all I've got to do is just check that squeeze the tires. Yeah, they're all right, and go. Like there's no nothing, man. There's no gearing up, loading up, nothing. Just go, grab your helmet and go. And I can go for a ride on that for fitness and that different fitness, of course. But it's for at my age, I like to be just doing something to keep fit. So
for sure.
don't have any sort of goals or ambitions for anything physical. I just, apart from keeping fit, So yeah, how
Yeah.
did you get into this? How did you get into the cycling then? So you had you've got a fair history in the cycling world. How did that sort of transition first happen? Yeah.
I was a cross country skier for quite a while growing up. And then when I graduated college, um, I kind of was figuring out what I still wanted to compete, and I still wanted to, when the beauty is being a cross country skier is to be good at it, you have to be good at a lot of things. So like in the off season, you end up running, weightlifting, roller skiing, the dorky little rollerblade looking things, and you just get a very good general fitness, cycling, everything. And so you can kind of like, when you're done wanting to ski race, you can kind of like pick and choose something that suits you, just because you have such a good aerobic fitness level coming off of it. So For me, I wanted to start running 10Ks. I just felt like it suited me really well, like that 30 to 40-minute range. And I started mountain biking. Well, and I always had mountain bike training, but never raced or competed or anything. And this is like 10 years ago when I graduated. And I kind of caught the bug, and it's the perfect bridge between cross country skiing and motocross, the cross country mountain biking. So I kind of caught the bug like about 10 years ago, started just local stuff in Minnesota, like nothing crazy at all. And then when I moved out to SoCal, when I started training the Geico Honda team, I just like, I loved it. Like you just climb mountains, and it was so much fun just to be able to do it. And then naturally, I kind of lost all my upper body weight from not skiing anymore, not lifting as much. And it just started to get easier because I got a little lighter and I could be a little more competitive in the races. And the rest is kind of history. But yeah, the cycling thing didn't really happen until I was probably like 25 when I started, biking, I would say a decent amount, but I wasn't really, I still don't call myself like a purebred cyclist, not because I don't want to be. It's just like in my head, I'm still a skier that just happens to bike. But yeah, now I've like the last couple of years, I was pretty much all in and raced at professional level and did some World Cups. And I really wanted to, be as good as I could for a little bit. And it was a fun little challenge for me and taught me a lot about training. And I felt like it was a really good education piece to help moto guys, just having to race and train at a high level and compete against a bunch of kids. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. I love cycling, man. Like I just sort of, I'm not sure exactly how I got started, but like it's probably only 5 or 6 years ago. So I mean, my history. So I blew up very fat and very unhealthy in my 30s. I let myself go, big time. And then it's a long story, but I gradually started to get me stuff together and started to work on being fit in my older age, man. And like at 48, man, I'm the fittest I've ever been. Like I reckon
So cool.
I reckon I could, I could run rings around a 20-year-old me. So, which I'm pretty proud of. But and still, I'm no super athlete. I'm just, I'm the best I've been. And I got into cycling, and I remember the first time I just went. Probably a few hundred meters, and I was like, I borrowed my dad's bike, and I went a few hundred meters. I was like, my butt and my legs, this is terrible. How do people do that? And then I persisted, and I started cycling to work, and then I started going further and further, and I was like, I'm not too bad at this, like I'm slow, but I can go forever, and
Yeah.
And now like I love doing really long trips, or long for me,
Yeah.
and so the sort of thing I do now, it's very different to your normal sort of cyclist. I go on my own on an adventure with I take a tent and everything, and it's kind of like hiking but on a bike, so I take everything and the pack rack, the whole show, and load up and head off through the Aussie bush and out into different things. And
What bike do you use for that?
I use it's just a flat bar road bike with a bit bigger tires. So yeah,
It's kind of like a gravel hybrid type bike.
it's kind of like a gravel bike, but yeah, because I have to use flat bars, which is kind of annoying. Because of a back injury. I just can't. If I get lean too far forward on a bike, I can't see. Basically, so I've got to have an upright position. Yeah, because my spine's bent basically. So I use that and I go on adventures like that, and like the last one or the last couple of times there, I'll raise money for charity, doing things, and all that sort of thing. I like all that sort of stuff. I love sometimes when I'm stuck in a big headwind and I'm tired and that, I don't love it.
Yeah.
But I love the sense of achievement, like it's It's an
Yeah.
amazing thing, and I really like that those sort of these solo missions I go on. So I did one not that long ago, yeah, and
That's cool. I think
it
that's
is,
way cooler than like racing, in my opinion. Once you get older, like that kind of stuff where, you kind of figure out who you are in those moments. And,
yeah,
you know, like you said, it gives you a lot of achievement, and, you don't have to put a number plate on to get that is, I think, pretty cool.
yeah. Like it's and it's just for me, like my kids, also my kids, man. My kids think it's cool that Dad did that, at his age, and like the last one I did, it was so I cycled to the mountains because where I live is super flat. And I cycled to the mountains, so the last bit was the hardest bit, of course, that I put myself in for because I was coming into the mountain town, starting to go uphill all the time. And then I basically cycled to a really really awesome little hiking spot, and then I did so I cycled for 3 days, and so that was sort of roughly about 100 k's a day, so 60 miles a day,
Yeah.
and then I did a hike around this it's called the Central Peaks hike, which is what is it about? It was 40 k's, so like 25 mile. I did that in sort of over a sort of day and a half. But yeah, sort of I took everything with me, like no help, no assistance. You got to buy food and water on the way, of course, because you can't possibly, especially like I'm a 90-kilo guy, like, and I sweat a lot. So man, there's no way you can carry, no way you can carry enough food and water because you're just
No.
burning calories. You just can't get enough to eat. So, but yeah, and then did the hike and all that. Raised I raised $1,100 for a cancer charity. So that was
That's
really
cool.
cool, man. So that's the sort of things I get into, and then I still ride moto a bit, and I just do that for fun. I've never been a good moto rider. I'm a super moto fan and a very average moto rider. So,
Yeah.
but I still race a dirt bike sort of once a year just for fun. So, which is
No, that's cool. That's
which
really
is
cool.
cool, man. Yeah, but I ride a lot. So particularly so I'm fit when I do actually race because
Yeah.
I hate, like like even sometimes I'll do an off road race because I like longer races, and my last lap will be the same speed as the first lap, and I've like pride myself on that, whereas, and I'm never that none of them are fast, but that's sort of what I like to do, man. Yeah,
No, that's
yeah.
cool. That's super cool.
Cool. So my next question, man, was how'd you get to know Alex? So obviously you knew him from a kid. You were racing against him, and you were riding at Millville and that sort
Yeah,
of thing. So yeah,
yeah. I was closer with Jeremy growing up. We'd actually, when we were young, we were probably like 13, 14 years old. Jeremy and I would skateboard in his driveway. And then Millville at that time had like a little skate park for people there. So we would skateboard a lot. And honestly, Jeremy was not good growing up. He was kind of this chubby kid. Um, and then Alex, I didn't really know that well because he was just old enough. He was like the class above me. So he was just a touch older than me. So I never really and he was good. He was like way out of my league right away. Alex was always way better than Jeremy at that time, and then obviously Jeremy slowly caught up once he hit super minis and stuff. But yeah, so I've known them for a long time, known their family. Our parents know each other well, so I've known the Martins for a while. But Alex and I really started. We were pretty competitive when Jeremy and Alex were trained by Johnny O in like 2015, 2016. I was kind of just getting into the industry 2014, and we were really competitive with each other cycling. Like we never talked about it. We never I didn't even talk to them at all during that time, but on Strava and just kind of like street cred and moto, like they were the gnarliest guys on bicycles, no doubt. So I was always trying to like one up them and so that was kind of where our relationship started is we'd talk cycling and training and all this stuff. And then it slowly evolved and I started training him probably about 6 years ago. And from there, we just slowly grew together. I learned a lot through him and Jeremy, and he helped me a lot with my career. And then towards the end of when I knew he was going to be done, or close to it. He kind of told me like, I'll probably have one more year. And I was like, dude, we should just start a training company, because Alex is very smart with training.
Mm.
He knows what he's doing. He's done everything, right or wrong. He's done it all 1,000 times. And so we kind of just started it on a whim. And once he retired, it really blew up. And it's such a passion for him and I that we click really well. We have a lot of the same ideas, the same methodology. I think the biggest thing in coaching anything is you have to know what you're doing to some extent, and you have to know certain things, but you also have to be open-minded enough to know that each athlete's a little bit different, and you kind of have to tweak everything just a little bit differently. So obviously he has his race experience, I have my training and coaching experience, and you kind of clash it together. And we were able to put together a package that, we feel like we can really help people. And, we train everybody from, vet sea riders all the way up to, the top guys in the world. And I really pride myself on that, because I do think that it's just as important for the local guy to be fit as it is the top guys. Obviously it's not their living, but just from a safety aspect, just from a enjoyment factor, you can enjoy the thing you love way more if you're fit than if you're not. And so, I'm always, especially the vet guys, I'm always pushing them to, even it's 20 minutes a day. If you can't get, they have kids and jobs and everything. It's like, just get 20 minutes in if you can't get the workout we prescribe, and, try to just be consistent with everything. And, sure enough, we've got a couple of vet guys that are just awesome. And, they're not winning anything special or anything, but they're loving it. And that's really the whole name of the game. If you can enjoy it and it makes it a little safer, I feel like we did our job.
Yeah, man. Yeah, the safety. I'm so glad you said that, because that's such a huge thing. Like you're so much safer when you feel fit and strong on that last lap. When you still feel fit and strong, you're so much safer than when your arms are gone. And I don't know. Like I still rode when I was fat and like terribly unfit, man. Like, well, here, quick story. My worst. I never forget, and I reference it. The worst one ever. It wasn't even a race. It was a non-competitive, sort of. We call them a rally down here. Where they're just like a non-competitive thing. All your weekend warriors come out and do arrowed loops, and you pay your money and that sort of thing. It was just one of them. Wasn't even a race, and I was so I hadn't ridden for a while, and I was so fat and unfit that I could only just get me pants done up, and because I'd gotten fatter, and I remember being out of breath, buckling my boots.
Yeah.
Like, no word of a lie, I was out of breath, buckling my boots, because I was leaning over and I'd already put these tight pants on, and my fat guts was pushing on my chest, and I'm sitting on the trailer like, and then back down to get the next buckle and that sort of thing. I was that bad. And I remember stopping. I stopped about probably lucky. It wouldn't have even been half an hour into the ride, and I stopped and to have a cigarette. Like that's my lowest point. Like, I'll never forget that day. And I only did half the ride because I was just so worn out and all that sort of thing. And it's just disgusting that I let myself get that bad, which is a long story. But yeah, I've redeemed myself since now, because I've got some old mates that sort of look at me as their fit mate, like nowadays.
Yeah. That's cool.
It is, yeah. But it's and the amount of times back in those days where I would crash towards the end because my arms were jelly, my legs were jelly, my legs were cramping. You're trying to stretch a cramp out, and you just have these stupid crashes and that sort of thing because you're not fit. So the safety part of it is huge, and absolutely, man, the enjoyment part of it. Like, I love it coming off you come off the last lap, and I'm like, I feel pretty good, and then I love it the next morning, man, when I get up and I'm that first step out of bed after a race, and I'm like, feel pretty good. And my wife will say, how do you feel? I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty good. And that's so rewarding, man, because like, I'm looking after me shit, and this is the reward, man. I'm going to work on Monday feeling pretty good. Of course little bit sore, but it's that good sore, man, isn't it? It's that good
Yeah.
sores. I actually love the feeling of that good sore, just from putting in some work. So
No, for sure. And that's like the whole thing is like if you're going to spend, like I've told a couple of vet guys this, if you're going to spend all this money and all this time to go race, whatever, 15 weekends a year, you might as well take a little bit of time, take care of yourself. Like you said, so on Monday, you can go to work with a smile on, you're not dead, and it doesn't take you till Friday to recover. If you can just keep doing it week in and week out, and you honestly, like, to be fit enough, how it is. It's like, you don't need to be Lance Armstrong.
no,
Like, you just need to do something. And I think that's the biggest thing is, like, if you can create a little bit more fitness off the motorcycle, the enjoyment factor goes up. You want to race more, and it's safer. And it's just, for me, it's like, that's my biggest thing with the whole troll training is just getting, productive training into anybody's hands that wants it. You don't have to go bike 100 miles on Wednesday to be fit enough to race on Saturday. You can do a 3-mile jog around the neighborhood, and that's much better than sitting on the couch.
yeah, absolutely. It's a lifestyle. I still remember when I got to the stage where exercise wasn't a chore anymore. It was more like, damn, I wish I had time to exercise more.
Yeah,
It's a great
yeah,
place to be. And I'm like that, like I'm so busy and I don't exercise as much as I'd want to. Like I'd love to do more if I had the time. So, and I remember that I can distinctly remember that one night I went, put on a headlight and I went running one night because I'd run out of time to do anything during the day. And I was like, how cool is this? That like I really wanted to, I just had to do something,
yeah. That's
and
a good headspace for
that's
sure.
the place. Once you get to that place and you sort of, if you maintain it, man, it all becomes a lot easier, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Cool. I've got so many questions, man, but I don't want to keep you forever. So I'll just have a look through. Oh, here's a really good one. I've talked to quite a few people in the training space about the strength training seems to have a lot more. You can go right back to Jeff Ward powerlifting, so it's always been a thing. But it's strength training seems to be a lot more, I guess, spoken about nowadays. Especially, I've got there's young guys racing 85s that are strength training, and like it's a thing. I think particularly guys like Chase and Eli that sort of they look strong, especially Chase. Like he looks like, you look at him, he's like that dude's lifting some heavy weights,
Yeah.
that seems to be just more prevalent. The probably the body, the body shape, I guess, of riders has changed a little bit. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, strength training is like pretty much a necessity if you're racing at the highest level. Like, you can't, I mean, you can get away with it, but the crashes are going to happen. And the stronger you can be, the easier you can bounce back. Like a Chase, like you said, he doesn't lift weights so he can ride fast, really. I mean, he does in some sense, but a lot of it's just so he can take the hit. And so I think the motor world's definitely catching on to it as far as how good it. And I also think just the evolution of the sport, the better guys that we're getting in the sport are just more athletic, just all around. And not to take anything away from any of the past champions, but I trained Chase for a long time. I did some preseason boot camps with him the last couple of years, and uh, I don't think there's anybody as fit as him that's ever raced a dirt bike, and I can almost stamp that. That's cardio, that's strength, that's the whole package. Like, from an athlete perspective, I don't think there's anybody ever that's ridden a dirt bike at the highest level that's been as fit as him. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win everything, but I think we've all seen how many bad crashes he's had in the last handful of years. And the fact that he hasn't broken his body more times it's seriously unbelievable.
Mm.
Some of the Supercross hits he took in probably 21, maybe his rookie. I don't know what year was his rookie year. I think it was 21, maybe, on 450s. But he took some big ones. And to be able to bounce back from that, he's just a good example of why being stronger is better. On the flip side, the other side of that is I work with a lot of the like Garrett Marchbanks, Jason Anderson. They're big dudes. Like they're not little. They're 180 pounds, and they don't really need to be stronger to ride the dirt bike. They have so much leverage, and they're so efficient at riding that they're literally doing mobility work in strength training just to stay mobile and just to stay, they're not doing like max deadlifts every day. They're not doing, max bench press, any of that stuff. It's like, it's more or less getting strong enough to take the hits, being mobile enough to take the hits. But then on the flip side, like the Jeremy and Alex Martins, I would have them do a ton of strength training because they needed it. They were so little. Alex and Jeremy in their prime were like 145 pounds.
Mm.
So you get on a factory 250, like it's hard to hang on when you're that light. So, depending on who you are and kind of where you're at, like strength training is either you need to be doing a lot of it to get stronger, or you need to be doing enough to take the hits. And it's kind of finding that balance of where you need to be. And even Chase, like his trainer, I'm good friends with Peter. Like he's talked about how for next year, he kind of wants to back off a little bit on strength. Just because Chase like looks at a weight and puts on muscle. He's got the genetic, the genetic code where his strength is not, it's not that, Peter's having him do anything even that crazy. It's like Chase is just built to put on muscle. And genetically, that's just how he is, where like a Marvin Muskin obviously was not built the same way Chase was. So he probably had to do more strength training to have that strength. So yeah, it's a lot of like genetic and where you're at and how big you are. But I think especially in the 450 class, if you look at kind of the top outside of Cooper Webb, I would say kind of the top 5-6 guys, they're big dudes. Like weight is no longer an issue. I remember when I started training guys, everybody was trying to be like cyclists, which being a cyclist will do nothing for moto. You need to train, but being a cyclist build is not a good thing for just about anything but cycling.
Good for your insides. Good for the insides. Good for your motor.
But you're frail and you're just too little. So anyways, it's like it's kind of transformed into this where like the top guys now are just big 170, 180 pound dudes. You can see it in their necks. You can see it. They're just big guys. And that's something like preseason with Jason. At first I was like, he's a little heavy, and everything I had him do, he was able to do. And so I'm like, well, why would we touch the weight? Like, it doesn't even make sense. There's no point in like trying to lose 5 pounds just to like stroke our egos. So it's one of those things where I think as the sport evolves in the 450 class, the bigger, the better. And if you look at the top 5 guys on any given weekend, they're big dudes, and they get off the bike. They're not 6'5", but they're 5'11", 6'1", 180 pounds. They could be professional athletes in other sports if they wanted, where I feel like 20 years ago, it wasn't quite to that extreme yet.
Yeah, cool. Interesting. Yeah, I've asked a few people, and it certainly seems to be a common theme. Yeah, and when they hit the ground, that's that's when it's really key, isn't it? And like look at Deegan. Like Deegan's, just in the last 12 months, he's at that age where they just grow. He's starting to get that man strength, and he's a little nugget now, and he and damn, he can hit the ground and bounce up like as good as anyone ever. Like it's amazing, and he's so strong.
Yeah, and those kids, I think too, they're gonna have a huge. Like I would say, obviously, kids have always trained that race moto, but I think now it's like a real thing where you train at like 15, you do weights, you run, you cycle. You're training. You're basically a pro athlete way before you ever sign a pro contract, and I think like the Deegans coming up that age, I think we're going to see more and more of these. Deegan obviously has trained. He's obviously strong. He's obviously fit. Cause like from a true like athlete standpoint, like he's nowhere near his prime. He's 10 years away from hitting prime cardio, prime, muscle, prime everything. So it's going to be cool to see him specifically kind of progress and see where, because I have a feeling he's going to size up and probably be more like a Chase I doubt he's fully developed.
Yeah.
And so I think he's going to just keep getting bigger and bigger, which I think is only a benefit for him. I don't see, especially in Supercross, like anytime, the inertia of a 450, anytime you can have a little bit more weight when the bike gets sideways in the whoops or anything is a good thing.
Yeah, it's amazing some of these guys how they can hang on. When a bike's RJ Hampshire is a really good example of that where it'll be just that thing is gone. Like there's no chance of ever bringing it back, and he hangs on to it and straightens it out like so strong. It's amazing. Yeah.
No, those guys, the RJs and I worked with RJ for a little bit, and I was the Geico trainer when Jordan Smith was on the team. Those two guys specifically, dude, they will not let go of the bars until they're upside down. Like those guys, they're so gnarly. Like how long they can hold on to something or get away from a big crash, or remember Jordan Smith endoed in Vegas for the championship in like 2017, I want to say, and dude, that dude never let go. He from like there was no chance he was saving it, but he thought he was saving it. And those guys, dude, they're so gnarly. RJ's probably had about 1.5 million of those moments, and I don't even think he realized he had the moment. He was just riding.
Just it's all good. Just hangs on. It's amazing. Righto, it's time for an ad read. Guts Racing, Greg's Ultra Trick Seats. Hey, the world leaders in the States. You got RJ Hampshire winning titles, Ken Roxon's out there, Mookie, Dylan Ferrandis, Kyle Chisholm, Scott Meshy. The list just goes on. Over in Europe, you got Kai DeWolf and Lucas Kuhnen just crushing it on their Rockstar Edition Husqvarnas. Hey? And you can buy your own Rockstar Edition Husqvarna, incidentally. And it comes off the showroom floor with a gut seat. How cool is that? Down here in Australia, the paddock is full of gut seats, including the CDR Yamaha team. And Jed Beaton out there just killing it on a gut seat. You can obviously get seat covers from Guts. You can also get complete seats. You can get wide wing seats. You can get seats with a seat bump. You can get a tall seat if you're a tall fella. You can get Velcro fitment seat if you don't want to tackle the job with a staple gun. Speaking of the installation, the Gut seat comes with a QR code that will lead you to a video where you'll probably see Andy Gregg himself showing you how to install that seat cover. That's pretty cool, hey? As privateer hero Scott Meshy says, they're a butt gripper and they will make you a ripper. Don't forget our veteran contest that's up and running. I've been talking about it for a few weeks now. We won't run too much longer with entries, but I'd like to be open to get a few more entries. All you need to do is if you are a veteran who rides or you are a veteran whose kids ride, you're eligible to score yourself a Gut seat cover. Thanks to Andy at the team there. All you need to do is either email me, AussieSteve569@gmail.com, AussieSteve569@gmail.com, or hit me up on either of my Instagram accounts. You probably already follow them if you're watching this show. So that's just the Outside Gate or AussieSteve_dirtbikes. And I just want a little story about your military and moto life. Just a brief on your military. You don't need to say too much about that unless you want to. But I want to hear all about your moto, the joy it brings you, the good it does in your life, about your own riding or watching those kids ride, and send that off. And the vets, Cody and Felipe, my two veteran friends who helped us out on show 38, I think it was the military appreciation show. They'll choose a winner, whoever tugs at their heartstrings, I guess, and we'll get a Gut seat cover out to you. So don't forget about that. And that website, again, is gutsracing.com. Really easy to remember, hey, gutsracing.com. All right, let's get back and see what else John Wessling's got to say about troll training and moto and blood work, dude. Like I guess all the pro guys, they're doing blood work regularly. How important would you say is that to like a guy that's just racing B grade at his local? Like, do you think it's a worthwhile thing for them to get that done?
Yeah, I think anybody. It's just good to know. We use a company called athletebloodtest.com. I don't know if they're available in Australia. I would doubt it, but maybe. But it's basically like, so if you get blood work done just at your local hospital, the only issue is they're putting your numbers up against the average American, which in the US is a bad thing. Like the average American is not healthy. They probably can't even run a 5K. It's not a good thing. So the athlete blood test is all based around athlete numbers because you'll have different, cholesterol, whatever, depending on where you're at athletically. And so they take a pool of, millions of athletes, professional, amateur, everything, and they create the kind of the zones of where you want everything to be in. And I like that look. The hard part with moto specifically is I definitely have my guys do blood work, but you kind of have to be you kind of have to pick and choose when you do it because if you're trying to do it like mid outdoor season, your blood work's always going to be messed up. Like your body's always trying to recover from the weekend, so you'll always have variations of like it doesn't look good on paper, but the reality is just you're ruining your body every Saturday, doing 230s at full gas. And then you're training during the week in the heat and all that stuff. So it's kind of like figure out where your deficiencies are in the off season and then work on those during season. And if there's any red flags, for sure, go get blood work done. But it's more or less like, take a snapshot of it at one time, 2 times during the year, make sure everything's good, and then figure out if you have deficiencies. Because people always talk diet and supplements and all that stuff, but a lot of times, and what I've learned through this company and the doctors that work there is we over supplement. So, like a perfect example is they found out that too much vitamin B12 is actually creates negative. Like you don't have as much performance gains by taking more B12 than you need. So there's just little tiny things that it's like if you're just taking a multivitamin every day or you're taking, it doesn't matter what it is, like you might not need it. And it honestly, it's not going to like kill you necessarily, but it's not necessary to perform. So I think that's the biggest thing is just figuring out where your deficiencies are and then just working on those. And whether it's like having an extra cup of broccoli or eating a little bit more fruit or, taking an iron supplement. I'd say most athletes when they get their blood work done, they'll realize they need to supplement some sort of iron. Just those little things that help. But usually, I would say most athletes, there's no crazy red flags unless they have, if you're diabetic or something like that, you have to be a lot more on top of it. But I would say most athletes, it's more or less, are you eating enough? And, obviously eat fruits, veggies, and make your life a little easier that way.
Yeah, eat the what's the thing? Go around the outside of the supermarket to get your
Yeah,
food.
yeah,
Don't go down the aisles. That's I know that's one a trainer mate of mine that he said. Yeah, you go around the produce, the fresh meat. Like that's it.
for
Go
sure.
go around the outside and don't go down the aisles. Yeah, but
Yeah, no, I've been taught that too. I use that one all the time.
yeah, eat what nature grew for you rather than what was made in a factory. Yeah.
For
That,
sure.
that's it. One thing that I'm no good at, and I reckon a lot of people are no good at, is sleep. Yeah. How much do you focus with your athletes on that?
Yeah, that's like the biggest. I would say that's probably the biggest like real enhancement you can get through training is just sleeping better. Um, it's tough. I mean, obviously, like the 450 schedule, dude, it's so gnarly. The amount of races, the amount of flights, the amount of hotels they have to sleep in. So you kind of have to be good to compete at a high level, or you have to be good at sleeping to compete at a high level in the 450 class. The 250 schedule, it's still gnarly, but it's not. You get some pretty big breaks and stuff. So for the 450 guys, like one thing I really like to have guys do is not take early flights out on Sunday, just because it kind of delays your recovery and kind of screws you up for the following week. So like if you can fly out a little later, that's best. Obviously, it doesn't always work out. but yeah, just once season starts, like sleep is it's always your best friend, but especially once season starts and you have to perform. And, there's been tons of studies done on soccer players that sleep 7 hours versus 9 hours, and the amount of injuries in the studies. It's like the most obvious thing that sleep is helps you make less mistakes, and you're a little more clear to do things. So I think in moto, it's obviously the same thing. And yeah, the more sleep, the better. Like if it was up to me, all my athletes, it's so hard to do, obviously, especially as you get older, it's harder to sleep. But if they could sleep 10 hours every night, that's what I would have them do. Um, that's kind of, it's your free HGH, your free testosterone, your free, it's your doping. All you have to do is sleep.
Yeah, it's one I've got. I just got a good mate who's trying to help me just improve. He's 45 and he's like super fit, like way fitter than me. And he's trying to help me improve, get a bit more like him. And he goes crook at me about sleep all the time. It's like, if you don't get that sleep right, you're not going to. That's sort of the first thing, is to get the sleep right first.
For
And
sure. Well, and
that's
even
the one I always.
with weight loss, like you gotta sleep to lose weight. It's so hard to lose weight. So even if you're not like on the performance side, just for feeling good and all that, yeah, sleep is huge. But everybody's busy, and it's way easier said than done. I wish I slept about an hour or two more every night. So yeah, I feel like everybody at any time you could make the argument that you're not sleeping enough.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, cool, cool. What about do you guys get your guys into things that are specifically for their mental health, like meditation or yoga or anything sort of like that? That sort of for mental health, for relaxation. Do you get the guys into anything like that?
Not really. Like yoga, I'm a huge yoga advocate. I do yoga myself. I love it. I don't really push like anything crazy on like mental health. It's a good point you bring up, because it should be more normalized, especially in moto, with just the adrenaline and the risk and everything. It's definitely like, I don't know on a cellular level what's going on with the adrenaline dump you get every time you ride, but there's some there's some demons in that adrenaline, that you're trying to chase your whole life. So I think, yeah, I think there's something there. I think, um, I think for a lot of guys, it's training. If they go train, like you and I, no different. Like we go on a bike ride, you're kind of able to clear your mind and be in nature, and you get back from the bike ride and the world makes sense again. And I
Definitely.
think for a lot of guys, that's probably the best form they get, but I don't think many guys are doing, it's kind of the macho man mentality that's still in moto. I don't think many guys are doing anything crazy. There are definitely some guys that meditate and that kind of thing, but it's not normalized by any means.
Yeah, yeah. It's it's I do that sort of stuff, like I have done for years. Yeah, and it's for mental health and for my headspace and that sort of thing. And yeah, yoga, man, is it's awesome. And but I still get people, and Australia's probably a little bit more forward thinking on that. Mental health spoken about a lot down here now.
Uh-huh.
Um, with men and all that sort of thing. But people still laugh, and I don't care. Like, nothing offends me. But people
Yeah.
laugh when I say that I do yoga, because I don't look like the typical guy that does
Yeah. Yeah.
yoga.
Yeah.
Like I don't look and sound and act like a yogi, but I love it. It's amazing, and
Yeah.
I do it regularly. I just do it on my own, just an online thing, and yeah, it just really works amazing for me for relaxation. That's one time where I do sleep awesome, is after a yoga session. That's why I started it. I started it for better sleep. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
15 years ago, probably. Yeah, and
It's
it
huge. You know too, like as I'm getting older, like there's certain things when we were young where we were just like, "Oh, my back's fine. It'll never hurt," or whatever the case is. Like I've always been pretty fit my whole life, so I've always kind of just like neglected little things, maybe stretching here and there. And once I started doing hot yoga, like my entire body changed, my entire, like my mind, everything, because you're just like, "Oh man, like my back was really tight," blah blah blah. all of a sudden you go to bed, you can sleep. You know, your
Mm.
back's not tight. You know, all the little things that you might not even know are affecting you really do. So yeah, I'm a big advocate on it. The hardest this is kind of the argument I get into with trainers, not argument, but this is kind of like a hot topic. And I talk about this all the time with other trainers and athletes. And so like in moto, and you know this, like it's not like if you're a professional runner, for instance, and you live in a decent area for running, like you can run from your door every single day for your training. So you put on your shoes in your house, you run from the door, say it's an hour in the morning, you take a midday break, you do another hour in the evening. That's a professional marathon schedule. And obviously they have life and maybe kids and a part-time job, whatever. But that's like their how they train. In moto, it's like a 45-minute drive to the track. You get geared up, you go ride. You might have a mechanical, like even at the pro level, you got to take a while for the bike to get ready, set the sag, put the gas in. Like it's this whole process. Then you're cooked once you're done riding. You come home. So you have such a finite time to like truly train and have it be quality training. Like if you wanted to, you could train 8 hours a day, but there's no quality in that as a moto guy. So I always talk about this. It's like I always try to fill the buckets with my athletes that make the most sense for them. So like if a guy hates cycling, for instance, I shouldn't say never, but I rarely will have them cycle because I want them to enjoy the little enjoyment they can get out of training after riding or on an off day or whatever. Like I want them to actually enjoy the training so it doesn't feel like they're going to work every day beating their head. So finding those buckets to fill, and that's kind of like where yoga is really hard to fill that bucket because it's like they do a morning warm up, they drive to the track, they do their motos, and then afterwards it's like they do maybe a recovery workout or a light strength workout, and then they stretch a little, and then it's 6 p.m. and they got to eat and the day's kind of done. So figuring out like what makes sense for athletes, like some guys, I think yoga would be huge. And then some guys, they don't get any confidence off of yoga. Like doing an hour cycle after riding is where they're going to get more confidence. So it's like trying to figure out like what makes sense. Cause if it were up to me, like if I was racing pro, I would want to do yoga after riding just to loosen up and to feel good. And I think a lot of guys, 1-2 days a week, that's a good thing, but they can't do it every day just because they have so much other stuff they have to fit in their schedule. And that's like I think for me, that's what I enjoy the most. And that's what I'm best at is figuring out, like just piecing the puzzles together as a trainer to like, be like, okay, this is what is going to help this guy click. This is what's going to help him ride the best, be confident, all that stuff. And then for other guys, it's like, they don't even care. They're just like, just write me the plan. I'll do whatever you say. and you go to town. So going back to the yoga thing, it's like, I wish they could do a run, a bike, yoga, ride all in the same day. And it's so hard to fit it all in. And, during the week, it's usually 3 to 4 days, if you're lucky, between races to get like a good training day. So that's kind of my thing with all of these different training modalities is like, all right, where can I fit it in so it makes sense, but without making them so sore they can't do their actual job, which is riding the motorcycle.
Yeah. Cool. Because that's one thing. Recovery, man. Recovery is so much more talked about than it used to be. Like I mentioned Jeff Ward before. There's the story about Wardy. He rode for like 50 something days in a row one season. Like he was moto in the day after the race and all this sort of thing, and just like recovery, like no such thing as recovery. And nowadays it's a huge focus to get the guys recovered.
For sure. Well, and hanging around those guys, like I hang around Wardy and Johnny O, and dude, I'm telling you, those guys are so gnarly and they are a totally different breed. It doesn't exist anymore. Like those days are gone. But we are so lucky we had them to show us like how gnarly you can actually be. Because now, it's so much fluffing. Like I can only imagine what Wardy thinks of like, what I have a lot of my guys do on like a recovery day. It's probably like, what the hell? These guys are soft. But no, it is. It's I mean, they know it too. Like as they get older, I've talked to them about it. Like they can't, they can't do what they used to do, obviously, and they don't want to do what they used to do because they know better now on certain days. But yeah, there was a time when like a Johnny O, when I first moved to California, he was in his 50s and nobody could beat him on a bicycle. Still, mountain bike races. I mean, we go to mountain bike races, nobody could beat him. And to do that through your 50s, you're doing something right. So yeah, they weren't thinking recovery necessarily, but they had their body and mind in the right place. That's for sure.
Yeah, just gladiators, man. Those guys. It's amazing, man. Yeah. Supplements, man. What's your thoughts? Like, there's so many supplements going around at the moment, and like, you constantly see adverts for them on socials, and I've tried this and that and the other, and I'm sort of shooting in the dark. I don't really know what I need, but I'll try them and that, and all that sort of thing. What's your thoughts on all that? Do you think that you really need to get the blood work done and go about it properly, or is there supplements that just like everyone should take?
Yeah, I would I would get blood work done. Like, it's the easiest way to know where your body's at. I think in today's society, it is crazy to understand and to know, if it's not your livelihood like it is mine, to quite understand like how potent the marketing is, for better or worse. And it's so bad right now, especially in the US, that like there's top level athletes that are doing things that are not helping their performance whatsoever, diet wise, whatever it is, thinking that it's helping them just because they read something or they listened to a podcast or they did this. And it's like, the reality is your body, it needs kind of everything. There's not like one path where it's like, oh, this is 100% going to be the best thing for an athlete. It's you kind of need everything. You need all the colors of fruit and veggies. And surprisingly, this is kind of the crazy thing. Most endurance athletes, and especially moto guys, they need processed foods, because the reason processed foods are good is they're really high in carbohydrates. So you don't have to eat like 8 baked potatoes to get the same carbohydrates as you do as like, a bowl of cereal if you're low on calories or carbs that day. So it's like you kind of need everything as an athlete, and it kind of gets mixed up where so and so was on this diet when he won, and so was on this diet when he won. So I need to do that diet to win. And it's like, well, they didn't win because of the diet. They won because they're gnarly. And it's kind of it's probably the most talked about thing with troll training. Like, Alex and I get questions every single day from everybody, and you get a lot of people that are fasting, you get a lot of keto, you get a lot of carnivore, should I be vegan? You get just a lot of questions. And the reality is like, whatever's sustainable for you and whatever you can repeat week in and week out that's healthy is what you should be doing. And and at the highest level of racing, when you're traveling 30 weekends a year, that it usually is a pretty broad diet, because you can't go to many airports and get a great meal. So, these guys aren't eating salads every meal. It's like you get into the airport and it's like, dude, some days you're eating Chick-fil-A because you need calories and that's the only
All you
thing.
can get. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all you can get. And it sucks that it has to be that way, but it's the reality. Is like, these guys, they're on the road 30 weekends a year. You're not going to eat like a king every night. And so, also too, like being open to, you don't want to have McDonald's obviously every day, but being open to like, the best thing I always tell people is you eat the best you can in the situation you're in. So if the best you can eat is you can eat like a steak and a salad and, sweet potatoes, and you can just have this amazing meal, that's what you have. But if you're at a gas station and all they have is a shitty ham sandwich and you need the calories, like that's just what you're going to have to eat. And so that's kind of what I try to preach to all my athletes is like, you got to eat well, but there's sometimes where eating well is just not even an option. Especially these outdoor races, you go out in the middle of nowhere, and like the best. Yeah. Like, where were we the last weekend? High Point. Like, the food options are just, it's not like horrible. It's just, there's not a ton of great food options. So, you're not eating like you are when you're in, LA Coliseum at SMX final round. You're not able to get the same quality food. So yeah, it's just, I think supplements go the same way. It's like, if you need the supplement, you should take it, but I don't think you need to like bend over backwards to be taking these supplements that you don't even know if you need. And a lot of people are married to them, and they swear by them. And if you feel like it works, I think you should take it. But also, usually the food you eat is probably the best supplement you can get.
Yeah, cool. Because the marketing, man, is crazy. If you follow sports on socials, you just get this. You should be taking this. You should be taking this. It just
Yeah,
comes
yeah,
pouring in. And I've been sucked in a couple of times. I've tried things, and I think there's a lot of placebo effect too. When you take
for
them,
sure,
you're like, oh, this is going to make me better.
for
And
sure.
now I'm not taking anything at all at the moment. But yeah, I've never had blood work done for proper, apart from your routine, doctor checkup once a year, blood work. I've never
Yeah,
had proper blood work done, but it's something that I do plan to do. It's a difficult thing to get though. It's not easy to get. It's
it's kind of a pain in the ass too to like take the time to go get. You're like, do I really need it? Do I really feel that bad? So it is kind of a hassle. But yeah, with the whole food thing and the supplement, like I think like the couple things that I've kind of across the board, I've changed my ways with this because I was never like this when I started. But the couple things I think you should definitely be taking is I would say most athletes probably aren't eating enough protein if they're training hard. So whether that's, eating more chicken or making a protein shake or any of that, I think that's like you can pretty much most people, I would say you can pretty much guarantee if they're training a lot, they're probably not eating enough protein unless they're very critical on, weighing it or anything like that. So that's something I've really, especially as you get older, you start to lose muscle mass. So I think it's a really crucial thing to like take and be proactive about. And then the other thing is iron supplements. Like I would say most athletes are low on iron to some degree. And it's good to get your blood work checked so you know if you are or you're not, because obviously if you're not low, you don't need to supplement it. But those two things, the protein and the iron, I think across the board, most athletes I work with could use those supplements. But outside of that, yeah, I'm a big advocate on just eating well and living a healthy lifestyle and trying to get as much nutrients in your food. And then if you can't get it through that, then maybe you do a multivitamin or something like that. But yeah, if you live and die by supplements and drink mixes and all this stuff, like it's a slippery slope, and it's not always the best.
Yeah, man, cool. Towards the end of the show, man, I just like to ask a few sort of fun questions, man. Um, dude, who was your childhood hero?
Oh, Travis Pastrana for sure. I was a big TP fan, especially on his 125 days when he was like 16, winning everything. I was pretty stoked to watch him race live when he was young.
Yeah, man, that's a good answer. Yeah, he it's one of my things where I just, like, it's awesome what he's done with life, but I just wonder, what if he just stuck right into moto, like, oof, like we could be talking about him as we could be talking about him as the GOAT, possibly, like that's how
Yeah,
high I rate him, like I
yeah,
think he would have would have taken a chunk out of Ricky and James and the like, I think. But yeah, he's obviously built an amazing life for himself going the freestyle route, and then also injuries is also played a part. His concussions and that played a bit of a part in his racing career at the end there too. Yeah, cool, man, cool. What's on your bucket list, man? Like, as far as either moto or business or just life, man. What's on your bucket list?
I think the biggest thing is I just want to grow with Alex, just grow troll training, just continue to grow and continue to help. We work with a lot of different athletes, so just I really want to branch out into different sports. And I really look up to Peter Park, the trainer, and I want to do what he does. Like I think he's the best trainer in the world. He does a lot of just normal people, does a lot of the best athletes in the world, just does a lot of different styles of training. And I think the more you can know outside of it, a specific sport, the better, because you can apply other things to the sport. And I think for me, I always want to keep learning. So I really would enjoy to work with, baseball, hockey, and just continue. Like moto is always going to be core, but I think, being able to branch out and work with other athletes is pretty high up on my bucket list. And, obviously I think I need to be better to do that, but I think eventually I can get there and grow troll training into more than just moto. But yeah, right now just growing in the moto community, and obviously we've had really good feedback and everything, so it's been fun. But on a personal level, like I want to keep bike racing and enjoy bike racing. And I really do. I think this year is the first year I haven't been too serious about anything training wise, and I really realize how much I like to bike ride. So I'll do the Leadville 100 again this year, which is 100 miles. It starts at like 10,000 feet of elevation and it goes up to 12,500. So it's really high up, but it's a really cool race, good environment, and kind of gets the most out of you for sure.
Yeah, that sounds like it, man. Yeah, yeah, man. Yeah, 160. Yeah, so 160 k's at elevation. Yeah,
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough.
Definitely more than I could handle. I could do it. It'd just take me, it'd take me a few days. It'd probably take me 2.5 days to do it, I reckon. Instead of in one day. So yeah, cool, man, cool. What else have we got? So just how do people get in touch with Troll Training, man?
Through our website or just emailing me, John at trolltraining.com. We have a bunch of different training packages, and we have, kind of whatever you need. And also too, like Alex and I are open books. So if people just shoot us an email, we'll answer. Like we always say, like, there's no secrets. We're not hiding anything. It's just more or less, we're just trying to educate people to, be happy and healthy and safe, and, just keep elevating sports and making athletes as good as they can be.
Cool, man. Cool. I just noticed a question I wrote down that's just one for me. Dude, I'm super, super good at that sort of what my trainer would call zone 2 heart rate stuff. So, sort of around sort of 140-ish all day, man. Like all day, I can run at that sort of, that mid sort of heart rate all day and just be good. But I'm terrible at high heart rate stuff like sprint work and that sort of thing. How can I improve with that, man? Just do more of it, or am I doing something wrong? Or
yeah, so with training, you just balance everything. So you balance your hard days, your easy days, and you just kind of create this balancing. It's never like one thing 5 days a week or anything like that. So for being better at sprinting, the easiest way to do it, it's the most painful way, but it's definitely the easiest, is doing 40 seconds hard, 20 seconds easy. And you can do that in like 5-minute chunks, 10-minute chunks. And usually like top level athletes, I'll have them do like maybe 4 by 10 minutes of that, where you go 40 seconds really, really hard, 20 seconds. Like if you're running, for instance, you're basically sprinting as hard as you can. And then the 20 seconds you're walking, and then 40 seconds again. And what it does is it raises your VO2. Hypothetically, it raises your VO2. It's the best way to do that. But also it teaches your heart how to fully collapse and push all the blood out of your heart. So you're also creating a more efficient heart as you are, more efficient muscles as well. So it's kind of like the best bang for your buck for getting fit anaerobically, sprinting, like whatever you need. The 40-20s are kind of just like the go-to. But like I said, they're super painful. So you usually are pushing a lot of lactic acid, and it's after about 5 of them, you're like, why the hell am I doing this? But it's a really good way to get fit.
yeah, cool, man. Now I'm pretty good with one thing. I'm pretty good at pain. I can suffer, so yeah, that's all right.
You might love them.
yeah. I probably won't love it, but I can do it. I can push myself. So yeah, that's it. Because when I get a heart rate spike and I'm like, like, and especially like you think about moto, if something goes wrong and you get that spike, it wrecks me, where I get that real spike. So just want to get my old ticker, as we say, even stronger. Yeah, cool, man. Cool. Couple of things I do at the end of the show, man. The first one is a bit of fun. Give me your best Aussie accent. You've probably got some Aussie mates over there. So.
Oh, I'm trying to think of like a good one. I don't even. Can I have some Vegemite? Vegemite, mate.
Vegemite, mate. Yeah. No, that's
something like super Aussie. I worked with Mitch Evans for a while, and he would always have. I feel like you guys have the best one-liners on like, what, like you said, a pushy, just like the one-liners of like what you're doing or whatever. I feel like Australia just nails it every time. And he would always say things to me that it took me like 5 seconds to like process, like, oh, that's what that means.
Yeah. So, all right, then give us a go for a spin on the pushy.
Yeah, go for a spin on the pushy.
That wasn't too bad. Wasn't too bad. You're sort of mid-range. You're not up there, but it wasn't terrible either. So, good fun, man. Good fun. It's been a fun part of the show, man. Some people are really bad. And then so every now and again, there's some that are like really good, and it's like, wow, that's really good at that. Yeah, cool, man. Cool. And then the last thing I do on the show, man, is it's a funny thing, and it's a long story why I do it, and it's not serious at all. But I sing the outro music, man, and it's a bit of Kenny Rogers, man. And I always say to people, if you know the words to the song, by all means join in, but don't stress. Most people don't, and there's no pressure. So it's just how it's long story, but it's not serious at all. But this is the outro music, man. So I handed him my bottle, and he drank down my last swallow. Then he bummed a cigarette and asked me for a light, and the night got deathly quiet, and his face lost all expression. Said, if you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right. You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. John Wessling from Troll Training, thank you very much for joining us. It's been great fun. Lots of good advice there. Good luck with the Troll Training business, and good luck to Ando for the rest of the season. Get that green bike up on the podium, man. So that would be
awesome,
good.
Man.
And thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. It was great.
Thank you, man. Cheers. Bye.